空に触れたらどうなると思う？術式反転赤。
After the epic festival that was the 7th episode and the timid awkwardness of the 8th, both the Curse Wound and the Curse Training arcs ended, and the Jujutsu Kaisen anime entered yet another major arc, the Verse Mahito Arc. From the 9th till the 13th, it went on for 5 episodes, and to be honest, this arc made it pretty clear just how thin of a line there is between shonen and horror in Jujutsu Kaisen, or whether there is even a line at all. Jujutsu Kaisen is a shonen in name only. Going forward, it's only going to continue to get darker and darker. Now, as you guys know, I was doing weekly reviews of this anime along with reactions. Some of the reactions have been blocked, but you can always check them out on my Patreon. As for the reviews, I stopped after the 8th episode. I thought it'd be more interesting to switch things up and do entire arc reviews instead of just the episodes. Hence, this video. You can also expect exclusive reviews of Attack on Titan Season 4. It's gonna be epic. Now, before we begin, be sure to like the video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps the channel grow, and that is the goal here, so thank you. With that said, let's talk about the latest Jujutsu Kaisen arc. We are not going to talk about everything that happens in these 5 episodes, so feel free to drop down your own thoughts. I'm always up for discussion. Now, at the beginning of the 9th episode, a new character named Junpei says something interesting. He says that if there was a button that would make everyone that hates him die, he'd push it without any hesitation. At that moment, he is being beaten down by some bullies. It wasn't just some simple beating, it was serious bullying. Even when a teacher looked at them bullying him, he turns a blind eye and simply walks away. Here it is important to point out that those who have to continuously go through bullying live in a totally different world than normal people. They don't see the world the same way as normal people do. Junpei was in a dilemma where his absolute top priority is to get out of this endless cycle of bullying. After this bullying scene, we see 3 of them getting their bodies transfigured into something considerably gross by Mahito. He is the person they showed at the ending of the 7th episode, and he is also the antagonist of this arc. And for Junpei, who had a grave, almost insane sense of hatred for people who had made his life a living hell, Mahito was some kind of hope, an escape. So despite knowing what he had done, he follows him, gets acquainted with him, starts admiring him, and even worse, he actually starts getting influenced by Mahito. His philosophy, how he deems life unworthy of any significance, and how he considers himself the manifestation of the curse born from people's hatred, everything about Mahito further intrigues Junpei. The idea that people don't have hearts felt too good for Junpei to just ignore. And then Mahito says something that speaks to Junpei at a deeper psychological, emotional level. He tells Junpei how he can just kill someone if he hates them, and to do that, Mahito even makes Junpei a cursed user, or Jujutsu sorcerer. I'm still not sure which term to use here. Meanwhile, on the protagonist side, another major character, Kenta Nanami, is introduced. He is a former salaryman and a first-grade Jujutsu user. Both he and Itadori team up to take care of the current situation. I really like Nanami's character. If Goju Sotaro is the teacher Itadori wants, Kenta Nanami is the teacher Itadori needs. Not only does the guy follow a strong moral code, but also a strong pro code. He is the definition of a man, a mature, wise guy who would never act in a discreet manner, a remarkable guy. Now, here's an interesting notion about this arc. Both Junpei and Itadori are faced with some kind of dilemma. For Junpei, he wants to believe it's okay to kill someone you hate. For Itadori, he wants to believe it's never okay to kill. You can see how black and white these dilemmas are, but for these two characters, they are very, very real. Mahito uses the opportunity to exploit Junpei's dilemma, yet Nanami, on the other hand, knows there will be a time when Itadori has to come face to face with this dilemma. But now doesn't have to be that time. He is still young. He can always overcome his doubts, resolves, morals, in a subtle manner. This was indeed both a well-written and well-executed arc. I'm looking forward to what Jujutsu Kaisen will come to be in a few years. Now, in the 10th episode, Nanami faces off against Mahito. This is an epic face-off that goes on for a fair amount of time, but even though the odds were in Mahito's favor, Nanami still took care of the situation quite diligently. He did suffer some serious injuries though. At the same time, Itadori got acquainted with Junpei. He realized that Itadori is a Jujutsu sorcerer, unlike Mahito, but they still get along pretty well, almost like friends if I must say. Don't forget, that's a big word for Junpei. Since Itadori has binged most of the movies there are, and Junpei happened to be a fanboy himself, the conversation flowed like a river. Later, when Junpei's mom invited Itadori to dinner, all three of them had the time of their lives, just joking around while eating dinner. And now that they were close, naturally, Junpei asked Itadori if he has ever killed someone, which of course, he hasn't. Then Junpei asked, would he ever kill someone? Followed by, why not if they're bad people? And I've got to admit, no matter how normal killing may seem to all of us who are watching it from the other side of the screen, it's still very real for the character himself. Itadori makes a strong point. He says if he kills, the option of killing would just force its way into his life. By this point, Junpei has started to see that if he were to kill someone, he would taint his soul. And while that may be okay for him, he still has his mother, and thus he won't kill anyone. He won't taint his soul. Simply for the sake of his mother. He won't taint his soul because he still has her. But you and I both know how it is. Just when things appear to be going smoothly, the author spins his pen. A cursed spirit murders his mom. And that leads to Junpei losing the newfound reasoning he had gained because of Itadori. Next we see Junpei heading out with a thick black outfit. Outside he appears to be pale, but inside his blood is boiling. Then there's a flashback of Mahito explaining to Junpei how there was a Sukuna finger close to his mom, and the cursed spirit just simply got attracted to it. Which raised further questions. How did the finger get there? Honestly, I thought he put the blame on Itadori, but the person that came to his mind was the bully. The one that bullied him not just for the sake of bullying, but out of pure arrogance. Just like that, Junpei is at school, ready to torture the guy to death. Geto and Mahito are on the roof, and then Mahito puts a dark veil around the school. Now it's just Junpei and the people he hates. Without feeling either pleasure or disgust, Junpei continues to torture the truth out of this bully guy. But of course, little does he know it was all Mahito all along. Then the doors open. It's Itadori, but Junpei is not in the mood to talk, so they start duking it out. Itadori has no idea why Junpei is acting like this, but he keeps fighting back, both with words and his fist. Because of course, the way Junpei is acting right now is not right either. Until Junpei finally lets it out. How people don't have hearts. If they did, they wouldn't have cursed his mother. And Itadori's mind just falls into a loop. Struck with truth, a man's bare feelings. Itadori could not fight back, not after understanding the reason for Junpei's actions. So he becomes vulnerable, takes Junpei's attacks, and finally, both of them have a good talk. But right when Itadori proposes that he should come to Jujutsu High School, Mahito enters the chat and slams Itadori onto the wall. Itadori shrieks, telling Junpei to run, but Junpei still hasn't realized that Mahito is a bad person, and the moment he does, it's already too late. No matter how painful it may seem or how sad it actually is, after losing his self-respect, his identity, his beliefs, his mom, Junpei had finally gained a friend. And that's just when Mahito transfigures him. That's when he ceases to be a human. Itadori is perplexed. He becomes desperate. He asks for Sukuna's help to heal Junpei, even going as far as to say he'll do anything. But just like Junpei, he also learns the sad truth. Both Sukuna and Mahito are curses. That's all there is to it. In a matter of a single moment, he delivers a major blow on Mahito's face, and regardless of his abilities, this blow does some serious, massive damage. Right then, in that moment, Itadori is enraged, furious, downright mad. If emotions are what fuel cursed energy, then in this moment, there is one emotion that he does not lack, and that is rage. He is brimming with it, and for the very first time in his life, Itadori wants to kill someone as badly as he wants to breathe. He himself is going to kill Mahito. This fight is definitely going to be in my next top 10 rage moments video. You guys can count on that. Feel free to check out the previous one if you haven't already. The link will be down in the description box. Now, as the fight continues, at one moment, Mahito deliberately comes into contact with Sukuna and gets the most insulted he's ever been. Itadori continues to land some major blows, and with each blow, Mahito's face looks worse and worse. Still, he can always change the shape of his soul, and that's how the next moment, he is good as new. Before the episode ends, Nanami makes it to the scene, and now it's 2 against 1. The odds are against Mahito, but he exploits Itadori's weakness by making him kill people. Little does he realize that he has already broken Itadori. Now he is not afraid to make a choice. Mahito gets cornered, but Itadori and Nanami start bestowing massive blows left and right, but Mahito continues to enjoy it. He even uses this as a source of inspiration to finally manifest his very own domain expansion, a feat that Nanami himself is incapable of doing. He only traps Nanami inside, and for a second there, I actually thought that this is it for Nanami. He was going through his life, finding meaning in the choices he made, the life he lived, and then with a meaningful expression of satisfaction on his face, he accepts his demise. But both of them have ruled out the possibility of Itadori breaking in, and that's exactly what he does. He breaks in through the domain expansion because while it may be impossible to break free from the inside, the outside is still a shell. And then when Itadori enters the domain, Sukuna enters it as well. Something unexpected happens. Sukuna is not pleased. He had already told Mahito there wouldn't be a second time, so this time, he straight bursts his heart into a mini fountain. Mahito is now as useless as an average cursed spirit. He changes the form of his body to make himself an easy target, and then escapes when Itadori pops him with a punch. I guess it's safe to assume that he gets to live another day, but now he's obsessed with Itadori. Itadori, on the other hand, has finally killed people. Nanami talks things out with Itadori, but the guilt may never go away. Whether he likes it or not, he is not the same person as he was before this incident, and he has no choice but to live with it. Because as Nanami himself stated, there will always be plenty of people who need Itadori. And that was the first Mahito arc. The school ended up designing a no bullying policy, and Junpei was ruled out as a kid who just transferred schools. It's sad, but that's how Junpei met his end. He did not die a peaceful death. What did you guys think of this? Will Itadori and Sukuna ever be able to see eye to eye? Why does Sukuna keep mentioning Fushiguro? And which direction will things take from here on out? Next up, we have the Kyoto event arc. I'll be making a review of that arc too. You guys can look forward to that. Now, before you guys go, be sure to like the video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, ring that notification bell and you'll be the first one to get notified. Well then, as always, I'm the Bearded Saiyan. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one.